Welcome back. In this lesson, I'm going to do a recap of the source code, and we're going to focus on the JavaScript. The CSS and the styling, you can really update these. You can add in your own styling and customize the look and feel of the game. This wasn't the focus of the scope of this course because we want to focus on the JavaScript and the gameplay aspect. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on the styling. Just so that to cover it quickly, we set up a button styling. So to make our start button look nice and neat, so it doesn't just look like a plain div, we added in the hover here, changing the background color slightly. And we did set a few customized styles here where we set the basic images to be 100 pixels so they fit nice and neatly here in the small part of our screen, so we can see the game and we can also see the source code. So this is, again, something that you can easily customize with a little bit of styling. The gameplay is there. You can make it look however you want, and you can even add in additional tiles to make the gameplay even harder, or you could remove out some tiles to make the gameplay easier. So it's up to you at this point. The game tile, so we did inline block them so that they stack nice and neatly. Number of ways to do that. You can float it to the left and so on and so on. So a number of options there, and just added a border so that I can see them. And we saw how useful that was when we're developing, because we're generating this output here using JavaScript. So we saw how important it was to have a border, because that allowed us to bug fix, and we saw that we weren't closing off the divs properly. So this is why usually I use borders for elements that I'm generating dynamically, and then I can visually see if things generate out properly. A little bit of HTML, set up a bunch of divs here as containers, and all these divs we're connecting to via our JavaScript. So the first thing that I usually do when I'm creating an application is I set all of my variables. So we had 3 arrays that we needed for this game. We had a bunch of variables here, so we had 4 variables. So I'm going to just move things around so that it's a little bit neater here. So number of arrays that we needed in order to contain information. And we know that arrays are one of the best ways to store data in JavaScript because it's all stored within that one nice, neat place. There was also some DOM, get element by IDs. So this was a really basic way to access the information in your DOM, in your HTML, and grab those elements. There's even more we can do with that. And if you're using jQuery, it's even easier. Next, we took our start button and we added an event listener. So I usually like to do it this way instead of doing the on-click event, because this gives us more power. Adding the event listener is more powerful than just doing the on-click event. So again, this is something that, depending on what you want to do and how you want your script to function, you can just add on-click events as well, or you could have even done it here as clickable. But because we're generating this and we're hiding it and showing it, I usually just like to keep it as that click event, registering that click event. So going over to here, so let's reorganize these functions. So the first function that we encounter is the start game. So this is the crucial one, and this basically does everything. It sets up the game. So start game is initialized by this event listener. You click the start button, it runs the function called start game. And so we have to set some parameters here. And I know I've set them up here, but for the second round of the game, we did need to reset some values to them. So you can clean this up a little bit by just declaring the values. We can comma separate them. So there's a number of things that we can do here to clean it up, because we're setting those same parameters down here and up here. So that's a little bit of redundancy there. But it's not so bad, so we'll just leave it at that now. But you can clean that up where you can declare all the variables and then actually pass their values within start game, because we needed to set those again. So we know when we click the start button, we want to hide that start button because we don't want the user clicking it a bunch of times. This is a one-time only thing. User clicks the start button, the gameplay starts. So next, we want to make sure that the gameplay is not already started. So that was the reason why we set gameplay to false, because this controls if we rebuild the board and everything and restart. So basically, this is our main controller for the restart. So this is where it's crucial to check to see if it's playing, and if it's not, we're going to set it to true. So the next time, if somebody can click the start button that we've actually hidden, but for some reason they might be able to click it. So we want to make sure that you can't keep hitting start game and it's going to rebuild all of these and make a mess out of actually what we've got covered here. So the next thing that we did here is that we built we hit gameplay to true, and then we launched a function where we build an array. So this was a crucial part of our application because we know that we could have done it statically as well, but we want to make this gameplay as dynamic as possible. So that's where building the array is something that we could do depending on how many tiles we have here. So instead of doing it that way, and we don't really have as many tiles as we need, so we can change this number. If we add in an additional 3 or 4 tiles, then we can build that into the array as well. So that made it dynamic, and that gave us the ability to build the array dynamically. Next, we did the tile array, so we concatenated. So we've got an array that we built, the tile images array that we built. So this is going to be the main container for game images. So we know that we double this up here, so that ends up providing a game board with all of these images that we've built in the tile images, and we can double it up. Next, we had to shuffle the array. So these are functions. I'm going to keep them at the bottom because these are more reusable functions. And I'm also I'm going to keep this one right at the bottom. So this basically was a function. We ran through how we can shuffle any array. All we need to do is pass that value. And notice that over here, we're shuffling the array. So that's all we're doing. We're taking this array value. It's a global variable, global array, and we can shuffle that. Next, we needed to build the board. So this was another series of loops that we had to go through. So just as we were building the array, this actually gave us the ability to build that HTML for the board. And then we're ready to play the game. So the next step was the actual gameplay. And the gameplay was actually fired off by attributes that we built with it when we're building out the board, where we added these on clicks where we could pick cards. So basically that was the gameplay function where we can pick a card, and this was the big one. This is the one where we spent most of the time, where we can actually pick through and see the playing of the content. So we're going to move this one up here because this is the next function that we needed to run our game. So again, this was a really big one. So we have checking to see if it's already been clicked, and if it's not, we're going to check to see if we're checking for a match here. So we don't actually need this value because we're actually passing values in either one of these statements. So we're checking to see how many cards are flipped. If it's greater than 0, then we know that we're on our second card. Otherwise, we know we're on our first card. And that's where we've got this statement. So basically, if we're on our first card, we're going to add in a value for card flipped. So the next time it gets clicked, we know that it's greater than 0, and we can initiate all that check. We know it's the second tile, essentially. And then we built out a function to flip the cards. So that's card flip. So basically what this does is this takes in that couple parameters here. The first one has the entire object, so we can identify the object that we're clicking, so we can update and grab the images, so we update the source, and then we add in the value into tile flipped over. So basically that builds out the array. We've got the same function over here, so we always add in the newly flipped tile into the array. We've got this second card we don't actually need. We don't make any use of that, so I'll remove that. So what we wanted to do, because we've got our second card, we want to lock out the play, so this is play lockout. Next, we check to see if it's a match. And if it is a match, then we run through the matching. We tell the user match found. We unlock the play so that they can pick a next card. And we do card flipped -1, so we know that we're not going to get stuck here on the second card. So we unlock the card play, and we also notify that this is the second card. So I'm going to clean out all this commenting as well. Next, we check to see if the length is equal to the tile array length. So we see that if we've flipped over enough cards that we're actually, this array is equal to the array with all of the tiles, then we know that we're at 12 items in the array, and we know the game is over, so we end the game. And this one here is if there's no match, so we tell the user there's no match. We set an interval to flip the cards back to the backgrounds because we know that this isn't a match, so we need to go back and reset it. So this is where we do that. And we set the interval. And the rest of the stuff we've already covered here. So basically, we've got our game over function here. And the only other one here that we still needed to cover is that interval. So we set interval for hide card. And this basically runs the function. I'm just trying to find that one here, hide card. And what hide card does is it runs after, right now, 1 second, but we could set it to 3, 5, whatever. And we loop through the 2 cards that are flipped over. We remove them out of the flipped over array because we know it's not a match. And then we update the source of those images back to the background. We clear the interval so that timer doesn't keep running. Then we unlock the play. We change the card flipped to -1, same thing that we did over here, and we put a message to the user to click any tile. So that means that they're free to start clicking the tiles again. And then the last one here where we do the game over, so basically this shows the start button again. We've got our click to start the new game, so it's a message to the user. We unlock the gameplay, so we go back to false. We clear out the arrays that we were using, and we're basically resetting the game, ready to go and start again. So start afresh. And then they can play it again, and they can play it as many times as they want. So basically, that's it for the course. We've got all of the gameplay that we've set out initially, and we've created that. And now it's up to you to take a look at the source code. Feel free to update the styling. There's quite a bit I know you can do with the styling. You can even update these tiles. I know they're kind of boring, so you could customize it, give it your own look and feel, and also try to add in some additional gameplay functionality using JavaScript as well. So we've got everything built out here. Try to expand how many tiles there are, decrease the amount of tiles, see if it still works, and add some additional gameplay for users. So I do encourage you to try it out for yourself and see what you can make using the contents you've learned within this course. Thanks again for taking the course, and enjoy. And I'll see you again next time.